Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have another excellent game to share with you. On the white end, specialized version of Leela Knight Odds, trained specifically to play without a knight. No queen knight for this game. Up against Grandmaster Alex Lenderman. Okay, this 15 plus 10 rapid game was played on lichess, on board, Sicilian defense, and with b4 we have a wing gambit. Looking to pull away the c pawn from its central control. Follow up d4 e4 duo. Black doesn't bite. Says no thanks. Hangs on to c5. Maintains control over d4 and prepares to develop. All very sensible. From here, bishop d3. Now, this move, to be sure, a bit awkward. To me at least, obstructing the center pawn like this. Normally don't want to play like this. But gotta think differently without that queen knight. No queen knight around to secure e4. The bishop has that responsibility, anticipating this pressure. Now it's true, you could secure e4 with the pawn, but you play in that way, the light square bishop is what? Inside the pawn chain. This guy remains out and about in this game and turns out to be quite an effective piece, to be sure. Okay, after bishop b7, we have a duo on board. Very strong configuration that black breaks up right away with this deflection trick. c4. Trading now c for e pawn. At the end of it, after queen to e2, something starts to show up, I would say. White is saying, all right, you got me. You broke up the duo. I don't have an e pawn, but I do now have an e file, a half open e file. This queen, the white queen, feels much more free than the black queen. And there's even a square that maybe starts to kind of come into focus. e6. This is the deepest intersection square in the position right now. And there's even right around the corner a third potential attacker of that point. From here, knight f6, bishop b2, and e6. So from here, white secures b4, plays a3. No, there's no trick of winning the bishop with bishop takes knight. Keep in mind, after the queen recaptures, queen takes bishop, there'd be queen takes rook in the end. So it's simply a3. And from here, black falls back with the bishop. Now, there may be a question, why doesn't black maybe keep the foot on the gas and develop the queen knight? This guy maybe starts to feel a bit awkward if you put this knight on c6. Doesn't have so many squares, like if it's questioned here with d3, where are we going first of all? Which diagonal do you want to stick around on? One of these two squares biting on a rock, potentially kicked around with kingside pawns? Or do you go here and potentially be trapped, right? White could duck the light square bishop exchange and maybe hint at c4. This guy's out of squares. So the simple approach here, some time taken out, put the bishop back on a nice, secure square. From here, it's f5, hammering away at e6. This is a pinned pawn. Bishop e7 breaks the pin, getting the kingside development in now. And after knight c6, rook a to e1. Now let's just pause for a moment. No queen knight to start, right? This queen rook is finding it just a little bit easier to activate. Gets active a hair faster. No queen knight to first move before we activate the rook for this game. No queen knight also around to potentially obstruct the dark square bishop. So there's nice clear view for the dark square bishop and a bit faster development for the rook. I'm just noting a couple differences here between having a queen knight to start and not having the queen knight to start, and how that may influence certain pieces. Very active white pieces right here. Adjacent diagonals for the bishop, everything is really pointing towards that black king. Follow up now, rook c8. Until this queen knight, this extra piece, moves, these two pieces aren't yet contributors. Bishop gets out of the line of fire. Bishop to d6 from here. One of the suggestions by the engine is to pitch a pawn to play e5 here. In a way, I believe it's saying, let's not allow this pawn to make a capture. Let's try and reduce pressure on the f7 pawn by keeping the f-file closed. All right, black plays it in a different way, puts the bishop in this position on d6, still has an eye on playing e5 next, and maybe we get more than one piece exchange in after that. It's at this point, white says, okay, let me make sure the f-file opens up, captures on e6. Black wants to eventually play with e5, so rather than take towards the center, that would require a bit more work, a bit more time before black can play in the center with e5. There'd be a pin. Black takes with the d pawn in this case and is now just one move out from e5. Follow up now, knight to e5. So let's just pause for a moment. I mean, if we're playing, let me just flip the board here. If you're playing this position as black, you're up the piece. But how do you feel? I'm just going to share how I would feel here playing as black. Scared. There's a lot of stuff happening here. Potential sacrifice on e6. Your kingside is ready to be blasted with the bishop and rook converging on f6. Possible rook lifts one way or the other towards the kingside. It really already does not feel like you're up a piece in this position. Also, freedom of movement for the black queen versus the white queen. This shows up, I'm noticing, in these games time and time again, a difference with the queen's mobility. Okay, let's get back to white's perspective. What do we do here? Black's approach is to secure f6, so e5. The knight is maintained. No bishop takes f6 here. Also, we have a jump for the knight. This is good news for the light square bishop and the rook. Once that knight could finally take a step. In comes h4. This pawn will soon act as a battering ram. Knight d4, sure enough. Bishop takes knight. Pawn takes. And now queen d3. Black finds himself now in an only move situation. Not the most difficult only move to spot here. There is a trick. There's some pressure on h7 now. The idea, remove the defender and go in for mate. Only move here is g6. And now we see this h-pawn contribute, applying pressure to g6. Follow up, bishop to d5. All very sensible. This is still considered a winning position for black. The light square bishop, if we just compare them here, the light square bishop stands better. The light square bishop interacts much better with the white pieces. We have intersection square here, e6 as well. This guy is kind of just all by himself, targeting g2, but nothing else involved. So let's exchange the better. Let's get rid of the light square bishop. Bishop d5 is a fine move. We exchange h-pawns. And now we have this flashy move coming up, rook to e6. So let me throw this position to you as a pop quiz. How would you respond here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, black is in a situation here where there is now only two moves that maintain a winning advantage. Did you come up with either of these moves? This is one, and this is two. Now, I don't believe either of these moves are very easy to spot. For one, if we just look at bishop e7 to start, a backward bishop move like this, defending f6, I think these type of moves come off as, they're kind of tricky to spot. If this was played and white continued here with queen h3, black would be in a position where, in order to maintain a decisive advantage, black would need to find back-to-back only moves. Now, I'm drawing some attention to this only move situation because I'm wondering, is Leela finding a way to, go for variations where it's going to be difficult for black to find a way forward? Like, does Leela recognize, what, if I'm in this situation, good luck to black trying to find the two best moves back to back? It's unlikely that black maybe finds the best continuation. Anyhow, what would this best continuation be from here? It says you can take on e6 with the pawn, and after queen h6, rook f7, an only move, preparing to meet the capture on g6 with rook g7. Also, preparing to meet the knight capture with the king fleeing through the e8 square. Okay, let's have a look at this other only winning move here for black. Rather than bishop e7, this other flashy move, bishop h2 check. What in the world is going on with this? Well, first of all, if you capture the bishop here, black would have knight g4 check, and then queen takes knight. And the other detail is that after king h1, black would be in another only move situation to maintain a winning advantage. What is that move? Feel free to pause the video and see if you can spot black's only winning move here. Okay, here we go. Only winning move is knight to e4. Interference tactic, cutting off some lines with queen takes on g6. How would this play out from here if bishop captures bishop or rook captures knight? There would follow queen takes knight. And in the case of knight takes knight, now black is in a position to capture on e6 in either way. This is considered winning for black. Okay, flashy moves here to be sure. Check on h2, bishop e7 defending. Lenderman in this game captures on e6. This is now considered an even game. And after bishop captures bishop, black's reply is pawn captures bishop. This turns out to be a blunder. And white is winning from there. There's a few moves here for black that maintain equality. These are the moves. Yet again, this check on h2, king g7, and king to h8. Now, if we revisit bishop h2 in this position, best is king to h1. If you take the bishop, black would in fact be winning because there would be a check on c7. And after the king moves, black could then safely take on e6, preparing to meet queen takes g6 check with queen g7. Okay. If we have a look at one of the king moves that's considered equal here, let's say king to g7, kind of just hugging these two pawns, there'd be a nice little tactic here for white. The capture on f7, swiping the defender, and vacating a square for the knight to land a fork. The queen will be lost shortly. This is considered equal, but yeah, good luck trying to play this position where Leela has the queen and you don't. Okay, in this game, what do we have after bishop captures bishop? It is f takes bishop, queen takes g6 check, king h8. We're only down to a few pieces to stir up trouble. We can in fact sacrifice one of them. Rook takes knight here. Black ends up capturing the rook. It's going to be mate no matter what. If you try queen to c7, some lateral defense, there'd be a check, another check, and checkmate next on g7. All right, in this game, it ends a little quicker. Rook takes f6, and we have mate on board after only 25 moves. So, what did you think of this one? Feel free to leave any feedback. Maybe, are you coming up with any observations in reviewing these Leela games? I'm finding time and time again, the enemy queen is really ineffective. In this game, it didn't even move. And what do you think about this idea of pursuing lines where maybe black has to find these, in some cases, only moves to maintain a decisive advantage or an equal advantage? Is this something Leela is, keen to? Anyhow, feel free to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.